Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe testified before Congress about the agency's failures leading up to and the day of the assassination attempts against President Donald Trump. And as he was being questioned, he literally erupted into a yelling outburst, taking offense to the questions being asked of him in a clip that you need to see. Being heated is the theme of today's show, and word is President Biden plans to issue more pardons before he vacates the presidency, including, believe it or not, Dr. Anthony Fauci. And in case you've forgotten, watch this clip of Rand Paul outlining precisely the crime that Dr. Fauci should be tried for against the American people. Fauci flips out in this clip. I'm Zach Costello, and this is the Zach Costello Show.
Section 1001 of the U.S. Criminal Code creates a felony and a 5-year penalty for lying to Congress. On your last trip to our committee on May 11th, you stated that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And yet, gain-of-function research was done entirely in the Wuhan Institute by Dr. Shi. Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Your microphone.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you were referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans,
right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about. Okay, you get one person.
Let's read from the NIH definition of gain of function. This is your definition that you guys wrote. It says that scientific research that increases the transmissibility among mammals is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
And let's send Dr. Fauci.
I have to, well, now you're getting into something. If the point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from EcoHealth to Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2. That's where you are getting. Let me finish.
We don't know.
Well,
we don't
wait
know
a minute.
If it did come from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
I totally
This committee will allow the witness to respond.
I totally resent the lie that you are now propagating, Senator, because if you look at the viruses that were used in the experiments, that were given in the annual reports, that were published in the literature, it is molecularly impossible.
No one's saying those viruses caused it.
It
no
is
one is
molecularly.
alleging that those viruses caused the pandemic. What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab, and NIH funded it.
That is
you can't
not.
Get away from it. It meets your definition, and you are obfuscating the truth.
I'm not obfuscating the truth.
Senator
You are the
Paul's
one.
time is expired, but I will allow the witness to.
Let me just finish. I want everyone to understand that if you look at those viruses, and that's judged by qualified virologists and evolutionary biologists, those viruses are molecularly impossible to result
no
in
one's saying those viruses
SARS-CoV-2.
caused the pandemic.
Paul,
we're saying they are gain-of-function viruses because they were animal viruses that became more transmissible in human, and you funded it.
And you
admit the truth.
And you implying.
Senator Paul, your time has expired, and I will allow witnesses who come before this committee to respond.
And you are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individual. I totally resent that. And if anybody is lying here, Senator, it is you.
Rand Paul's point is that when Dr. Fauci was asked before Congress whether or not the NIH funded gain-of-function research, his answer was no. He admits right there that it was funded by the NIH. But Anthony Fauci's behavior during the pandemic was despicable. This is a non-elected bureaucrat who told us that the lab leak theory was misinformation. He told us to double mask while admitting that masks did nothing. And finally, as Paul reveals here, he allegedly lied to Congress to cover his back. If he is pardoned, then what? Unelected bureaucrats get to operate free from the law regardless of consequence? That's the precedent that we are setting. This leads either to tyranny or incompetence. And speaking of incompetence, Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe testified, or should I say, yelled at Congress. Watch this.
So I got another question for you. Do you recognize this photo?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Was that the remembrance of September 11th?
It was.
Was it in New York?
It was at Ground Zero.
Okay. Who is usually at an event like this closest to the President of the United States, security-wise?
The SAC of the detail.
Special agent in charge of the detail. Were you the special agent in charge of the detail that day?
Actually, let me address this. Could you please, staff, leave that? Oh, no, leave that one up with the circle around me. Thank you. So actually, Congressman, what you're not seeing is the SAC of the detail out of the picture's view. And that is the day where we remember the more than 3,000 people that have died on 9/11. I actually responded to Ground Zero. I was there going through the ashes of the World Trade Center. I was there at Fresh Kills.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you,
Congressman.
were you the special agent in charge?
To show respect
You were not.
for a Secret
that's
Service
a bunch of
member
horse hockey.
that died on 9/11.
That you were trying to be.
Do not invoke 9/11 for political purposes.
Oh, I'm not. I'm invoking this.
You are, sir.
Gentlemen,
And you are out of line.
I would like to ask him a question.
Please.
You are out of line,
Order.
Congressman.
Don't
Way
try
out
to
of
bully
line.
me. I am an elected member of Congress, and I'm asking you a serious question, and you are
I
playing
am a public
politics.
servant who has served this nation and
You
spent
won't answer
time
the question.
on our day, on our country's darkest
Mr.
day.
Chairman,
Committee
you will
will
not
come
Do
to
not
order.
politicize it.
Committee will come to order.
I'm asking you serious questions for the American people, and they're very simple. They're not trick questions. Were you the special agent in charge that
No, I
day?
wasn't. I was there
No,
representing
Mr.
the
Chairman,
United
I'm
States
just asking
Secret
you yes or
Service,
no.
sir.
Mr. Fallon, your
and
time's
did not
expired.
affect protective
You
operations.
know why you were
Time's
there?
expired.
Because you wanted to be visible, because you were auditioning for this
I was
job
there to
that
pay
you're not
respect
gonna
for a
get
fallen
till
member of
January
this
20th.
agency.
You endangered
You are
President
out of line,
Biden's life,
Congressman.
Vice
You
President
are out of
Harris's
line.
life, because you put those agents out of position.
Mr.
Did you have a
Chairman.
radio with
Mr.
you?
Fallon,
Did you
your
wear a
time
vest?
has
Did you have a
expired.
weapon?
Mr.
No.
I did, sir, and you are out of line.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
please.
The question being asked of Secret Service Director Rowe here is about operations at a high-profile event where you saw in the picture Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Kamala Harris, and President Biden are all in attendance. He's asking about operations, and it's justified. Look, I sat down with former Secret Service agent Matt Doherty on my podcast, and we went into detail about the incompetence that produced the Butler assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. My sympathy for these incompetent bureaucrats is very low. So, frankly, I don't care how offended Rowe is about this question. He wasn't asked about his opinions about 9/11. The question wasn't about 9/11. The question was about operations at the event. The bigger question being asked here is, what in the hell are you doing? That's what the American people want to know. Are you doing your job? The bigger question being asked here is, what in the hell are you doing? That's what the American people want to know. Are you doing your job? Is your agency performing as it should? The answer is no, it's not. And the government at large is not, precisely because of the unaccountable, incompetent, power-hungry bureaucrats leeching off the American people. I'm Zach Costello, and this is The Zach Costello Show.